Okay, how about now? Yeah, so yeah, I think it should work. I think it should work now. Let me know if it's not working. But starting over, hype, like, comment, share, subscribe, and all the ways to support the show are at the very bottom. And didn't really have time to, set up everything as far as thumbnail and the description. We'll do that after the fact. But yeah, I hope everybody's doing okay. And something that I forgot to give last time, we were giving examples of how woke was used in the Black community, and there were some good comments in the replies to that one that I agreed with. That added some different clarifications and people's own opinions. And I agree. And I was saying how woke was used more benignly. Of course, it was used nicer than how these right-wing reactionaries are using it. Like, I wasn't trying to equate the two, to be clear, but that to a certain degree, woke was had kind of become a kind of joke or a character in the Black community itself. And I brought up an example, but I couldn't find it right away. But of course, as soon as I was done with the episode, I couldn't find it in real time, but as soon as I was done with the episode, of course I found it. So uh, let me put it up. Let me put it up now. But the example I was going to use was from the show Martin. I thought it was pretty good. So let me pull it up now. But the thing is, of course, that makes it very different is I think it was lovingly the butt of the joke in the Black community, and it wasn't painted the same way these right wing reactionaries do it. It was nowhere near the same thing. Of course, now I can't find it again, and I made sure to save it. So where is it? Just give me a second. Okay, I found it. So I thought this was a good example. So this is an episode of Martin where they all think that Tommy is dating a white woman and that he's gonna propose to her, and so they're bothered by the fact that he's bringing this white woman and that she's gonna be his girlfriend or whatever. And I think that Tommy's kind of sold out or whatever. And it turns out that the girl is just a coworker and a friend. But Gina brings a guy who is an example of woke, or you can call him a hotep or whatever. And another good example too is like the word woke is not used, but in Boomerang, Martin Lawrence's character was kind of woke slash hotep. There's a lot of overlap between woke and hotep. I'm gonna get you suck ahead like one of these characters too, and I think he ended up being married to a white woman. And I think I want to say Dead President's Head. This is very different than what woke was diluted into, as far as like now it's become kind of a very white image of like a Karen with purple hair and nose rings and shaved head, or some kind of bohemian queer Black girl or a gay Black guy. Like I think woke was probably very Black and male centered before, and even the women who were woke would have been seen as kind of male centered by today's standards. Not that I buy into that concept, but for people who today do use terms like that, they would call them male centered. That's why, like, people who would be called woke today don't like people like Erica Badu, who was kind of the poster child for a woke woman back in the day. They find her very regressive and like a patriarch. Get on the Bus was a Spike Lee movie about the Million Man March. So they're kind of poking fun of that movie as being kind of woke. You haven't seen the white woman character yet, but they think that he's going to propose to the white woman.
Gonna tell us that he's engaged? You sure as hell ain't gonna tell us she's black.
Spicy because some people might not like spicy food.
So part of the joke and the tension was that they were bringing a white woman onto the ski trip, and for some reason, this was a big trend at this time. Black people ski trips and ski parties. This was like a huge thing that was popular in the Black and Spanish community. I'm not sure exactly where it went, but that was a big thing at the time that this sitcom happened. So basically, at that scene that was cut, Tommy lets everybody know what's all this tension about, and then he lets people know that he and Aquanetta aren't a couple. She's just a coworker, and everyone has a big laugh about it. And then Aquanetta and the woke guy end up running into each other. It's the end of the episode, with the joke being that for all his woke talk, I mean, I guess some things don't really change. For all his woke talk, he K's at the white woman at the first chance, which was like a common punchline of a lot of these characters. I think that was the same thing with the "Don't be a menace to society" character. Same thing with why am I drawing a blank on the example? Oh, the "I'm gonna get you sucker" character as well. Yeah, it was a pretty good episode. So yeah, I couldn't find it at the time, but I found it now. I also I wanted to find examples to that Sam Adler Bell article where he gave a pretty concise, fair definition of woke, about all the people that went crazy and acted like he was trying to get like black trans people killed, all the old things talking about it, all the tweets like accusing him, and the threads, that were very hysterically like blowing the article out of proportion. I kept looking for them after the episode, and I just could not find them. I couldn't find that thread, unfortunately, and it's a shame because they kind of wanted to show just how crazy like the witch hunt atmosphere was around that time. But yeah, it wasn't meant to be. Couldn't find it. But yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, I want to show real quick something. This is something I find pretty interesting. Is I feel like that kind of social justice air that was in media, the 2018 virus, I feel like it really is like a virus in that it's not curable. The best you can do is when there's a strong immune system, suppress it. But just like any virus, any cold or whatever, it lives, it gets dormant, and it will rise to the surface and get you sick whenever the immune system is weak. So I think it's pretty interesting to kind of see how we kind of have this forever 2018 thing happening where it never fully goes away, and whenever there's a weak point or vulnerability, it keeps resurfacing, or it keeps fighting we got rid of a lot of that stuff, and it's been replaced by this kind of reactionary air. But at the same time, I feel like if we were to get rid of the reactionary climate we have now, we wouldn't end up with something neutral. Like, a lot of people think, okay, we got rid of the woke, now let's just get rid of this reactionary right-wing strain that's happening, and then we'll just return to the middle. But I feel like the minute there's any vulnerability in that strain, the woke part is going to reassert itself. And someone brought up something pretty interesting in the last episode, right? I'm gonna put it on the screen now. There was a comment that I thought was interesting. So here in the comment to the last episode, somebody put the black folks who were making fun of the word were reactionaries. Or some black people back in the day who were making fun of the word. Just because you're black doesn't mean you can't be a reactionary. And the reactionary took over that word, whether the white or black, left or right. Now, where I differ, where I disagree, I don't think Keaton Ivory Wayans or the Wayans brothers were reactionaries. I don't think Martin Lawrence and the Martin Show were reactionary, and even Spike Lee had some characters who were like kind of woke that he kind of made fun of, or kind of showed being hypocrites and stuff. And like even when they didn't use the word woke, they were kind of making fun of the concept of woke. I don't think they were reactionaries, but what I think they were bourgeois liberals. Like I think people use the word reactionary too too loosely. Like I do think bourgeois liberals, white or black, oftentimes do kind of have a reactionary streak sometimes in certain instances and certain in certain situations, especially when faced with something radical or whatever. But I don't think it's fair to call them reactionaries. 'Cause I think if you do that, you spread the word reactionary too too thick, where it starts applying to too many people to the point where it kind of is useless. So yeah, because you look at Martin, like it was, I'd say it's respectability because it trafficked in a lot of stereotypes and it kind of bored a little bit on a little bit of minstrel humor. But at the end of the day, it was kind of bourgeois. Like they live in a nice apartment, they all had nice jobs, they had middle class hobbies and types of jobs. They're going on a ski trip. They worked in offices. Yeah, this is a good example. The Boondocks, and the way they made fun of. Although the Boondocks, I think, does kind of low key straddle that border between bourgeois and reactionary. I think that's a good example of how sometimes the border is a little bit porous between liberal, bourgeois liberal, and reactionary. I think centrist liberals can be kind of reactionary. Like I'm not saying the reactionary ideas a total stretch, but I don't think it's fair to define the Boondocks, Martin Lawrence, and those type of shows as reactionary. I think Good Times one time had some kind of character like that. Someone wants to date them. Actually, no, Michael, it wasn't someone wanted to date them. Part of the joke with Michael was that he was kind of reactionary, and he would have been what people call woke. Yeah. So definitely bourgeois aspirants and Martin. Yeah, totally agree. Bourgeois liberalism hit its peak in its 90s. I know there were black writers in Martin, but I don't know if they were all black. Most of those times the shows had white writers too. But there was a guy called Sam Williams. He used to write sometimes for the early seasons of the Fresh Prince. Like his episodes were the funniest. He was by far the funniest. He was in the first season, and there were a lot of other people who I've seen in Martin interviews who were black who talked about writing. Like for example, I think Brumman also like doubled as a writer. Was it him? No, not him. The guy who played the gay guy who always hit on Martin. He was one of the writers. But I'm sure there were white writers too. So I would say that there was a mix. There was a mix of the two. Oh yeah, John Ridley was a writer on the show. I forgot about that as well. Yeah, but there's several black people who were writers on Martin. Same with Living Color. There were a lot of black writers on Living Color. Yeah. So yeah, that's when I say that. Like I do think there is often a reactionary streak in a lot of bourgeois liberals of all races, but to define them as like, that's their primary aspect, that they're reactionary, I think that would be a reach too far personally. But, I'm open to differing opinions, of course. This is what I wanted to talk about how I think things are changing. I think one of the big problems that happened with, this is from the Rap Pro. Why is Paramount hiring so many men with troubled past? The hiring of Max Landis is just the latest example of Paramount betting on men who have been accused of sexual misconduct. And I think this is a pretty interesting story because I think one of the weirdest issues with uh, the 2018 Great Awakening was this kind of idea that you should care for these issues, even if you're a corporation, because they're the right thing to do, and you're supposed to care at the expense of making money. Like, it was almost wrong to even ask these people to make money. And when these people would talk about why they deserved these jobs, why the shows deserve to survive, they would never say things like, "We make money." Like the most obvious thing to sell a corporation, they'd be like, they would talk about the work in terms of importance, in terms of, hey, corporation, do you want to be the evil corporation? Do you want people to think you don't care about Trayvon Martin? It was like strange stuff, like this kind of thing. And I don't know why they wouldn't even address the profit motive, and it just became so baked into the discourse that you even have an article like this that continues to just ignore it. Like, the truth of the matter is, these people they hired did not make money. They just didn't. And it's just so weird to me that they don't even address it. It's one thing if you address it and try to minimize it or try to lie and say you made money, but they just act like that's just not a factor. And it's just, I don't understand when it became normal for liberals to not understand what corporations are about. It's bizarre. But here we go. David Ellison and Paramount Pictures have a message for Hollywood's canceled #MeToo men. We're hiring. Barely 6 months after merging with Skydance, Paramount counts in his ranks screenwriter Max Landis, actor Johnny Depp, animation chief John Lasseter, director Brett Ratner, and former NBC Universal CEO Jeff Shell, who has served as president since the Skydance takeover. All 5 men face accusations of sexual misconduct before they were hired, some more serious than others. And I feel like that's kind of burying the lead. And I think it's one of the things I was trying to talk about 2 days ago, about how one of the problems with this climate was the weird flattening of everything, like the shitty men in media list that went out, and people who were just accused of having a creepy vibe. Like, nobody could even say what they did that was creepy. They just had a creepy vibe, were put in the list next to people who were accused of like violent, forcible rape. And that was considered like normal. And people would just say, without specifying, "Oh, that person was on the list," and you would get blacklisted or shamed just the same, no matter what level of accusation you got. So I feel like this is a big understatement to say some more serious than others, because some of them are way less serious than others, and I think they kind of want to gloss over that, but they kind of have to mention it, that some of these aren't really that bad. With Lasseter and Shell losing senior positions at Hollywood studios over their allegations. After being accused of physical assault, Depp fought ex-wife Amber Heard in a defamation case and won. Ratner faced serious allegations of sexual assault, harassment, and misconduct with at least 6 women, including actresses Olivia Munn and Natasha Henstridge, publicly accusing him in 2007, but criminal charges were never filed. In a 2019 Daily Beast article, Landis was accused by multiple women of sexual assault, physical violence, emotional abuse, and on-set harassment, although, as with Ratner, charges were not filed. The career rehabilitation of these men at Paramount Skydance comes nearly a decade after the MeToo movement exposed abusive conduct throughout entertainment and media, ending the careers of dozens of men, from star NBC anchor Matt Lauer to the once untouchable CBS chief executive Leslie Moonves. Harvey Weinstein himself remains in jail, convicted of rape. While Hollywood's reckoning with sexual misconduct pushed many men out of the industry forever, Paramount has opened the door to taking some of them back, as with the hiring of Ratner to direct Rush Hour 4, and Landis hiring to write Paramount's G.I. Joe. Depp will lead A Christmas Carol, his first major studio project since the defamation trial. Now, what's very interesting about this, I don't know much about Brett Ratner's case and how much validity it had. So I don't want to speak too much on that one. That's not something that I'm comfortable saying that he should or should not have been blacklisted forever for. But something that I do find kind of tricky. If somebody has not had criminal things filed against them, and we don't really know, because one of the problems too, right, is like Harvey Weinstein is convicted of rape. You know what he's convicted of. I don't fully know what, like, okay, so Landis was accused of certain things, but it was stuff that happened with girlfriends in consensual relationships that were he say, she say. And one of the problems with that era, and I saw it happen to a lot of people, where if you tried to defend yourself, you were accused of re-traumatizing the accuser. So you're put in a weird position where, you know, if you didn't say anything, it was proof of wrongdoing. If you did say anything, and God forbid, if you try to give receipts, like show proof, text, receipts, all that stuff, somehow that would get you into more trouble. So Landis wrote this long letter trying to explain that he wasn't an angel in relationships, but he isn't guilty of all these crazy things he was accused of, the more excessive things, and but that he feels like there's no way to litigate it without looking bad, like trying to pick apart, well, she said this, but this actually happened, you know, and so, but then that became proof that something was wrong, because by him saying, I'm not perfect, but I didn't do this, but not specifically picking apart, that became, oh, so he admitted that he wasn't perfect, and then he dodged, you know, explaining what he was accused of that wasn't true. But at the same time, if we're being honest, if he did say what he did, he was gonna get in trouble anyway, you know? Yeah, so I think it kind of puts in a funny position, right? Because this is what the problem is. A lot of these people, they're not being accused of all-out rape. Sexual misconduct can mean a whole host of things. But then there's always the possibility that some of these people are doing revenge claims. Like this Trevor Bauer person, it was exposed that his person was lying. Now, there's a stat that keeps going around that people say, where they say only 5% of rape accusations are false. Which, first of all, I think is kind of a crazy thing to say, because even if that was true, just the fact that 95% of the accusations are true should never be a justification for just believing everything automatically. Like, because think about it. Like, picture like you having something brought against you in court, or you're being accused of something, and you want to be treated as innocent until proven guilty, and you want to have the standard of beyond a reasonable doubt to be convicted like any other criminal. And picture someone says, well, you know what, since 95% of these are true, in this case, we're going to suspend that for you. Like, that makes no sense. Even if 100% of past accusations were found true, you should still require proof. Like it's a very weird argument. Like, we're going to use probabilities to make it so that we don't look into the fact. Like, if you think that the thing is true, then why are you afraid of these things being litigated? You know, because that's another. I brought up various things that I think wokeness kind of believes that are illiberal. Like um, wokeness is anti-conservative, but it's also anti-liberal, as in like nowadays, liberal just means being a Democrat or hating Republicans or hating right wingers. But liberal used to mean being like a classic liberal, like you believed in Enlightenment ideas and individual liberties, and you believed in certain rights like free speech. You believed in the right to press. You believed in innocence or proven guilty, burden of proof on the accuser, not the accused. And one thing with wokeness is illiberal. Wokeness fights for things that are the opposite of what reactionaries fight for, as in woke people, they're pro-black instead of pro-white, they're anti-racist instead of pro-racist, they're pro-woman instead of anti-woman, or so forth. But they champion illiberality. Like they believe in the cause of women, in the cause of black and brown people, for the cause of queer people. We have the right to suppress your free speech. We have the right to have you guilty until proven innocent. We have the right to, you know, not require beyond a reasonable doubt, to get you in trouble. We have a right to no due process. But one of the things that I forgot to bring up when I brought up liberal principles, and this is a major one, I can't believe I forgot this one, but one of the most important liberal principles when it comes to the courts and the legal system is imprisoning an innocent person, even one innocent person, is incredibly worse, is a way more immeasurable evil than having a bunch of guilty people go free. Like, the lesser of two evils is a guilty person going free, but the absolute worst evil is an innocent person going to prison. And with another difference between being liberal and illiberal, liberal people don't just believe in these rights like due process and all these things. Classically liberal people believe in it for everybody, even their enemies. So they didn't just want these liberal things to exist, but you'd have things like ACLU would fight to protect the Ku Klux Klan. They would protect the Ku Klux Klan's free speech. They would protect a white supremacist free speech as much as they would protect a black nationalist free speech. They would take on their enemies, and they're very big into, like, we believe in these rights for everybody, even our enemies, because if you let illiberality happen to your enemies, it's only a matter of time before it happens to you. And that's another difference between, I think, the liberality of wokeness and the liberality of classic progressivism, is just like reactionaries, woke people or social justice people, they want the liberality to just be for them. Like, it's not just that they believe in liberality, but they believe in double standards. That's another thing that classic liberalism / progressives used to believe in, was no double standards. Like, and to be fair, I'm not being naive. I'm not saying classical liberalism always lived up to this. America was full of illiberality. White people could get away with lynching black people, go to court, and supposedly court was built on all these liberal principles, and white people would get acquitted all the time. There were tons of injustices. So I'm not being naive in saying that these liberal Enlightenment ideas were always lived up to, but there's at least a pretense of trying to live up to it. And you had to lie and do some kind of trickery, whatever, to get around it. But you had to at least pretend that you're upholding liberal principles, whereas now you don't have to. It doesn't matter. There's not even a pretense. Like they want to open and codify that they're being illiberal and they want to have double standards, right? So yeah, that's like part of the issue here. And one of the problems that I kind of have is, right, if you're not bringing these people to court and you're not trying them, and we're not having any type of investigations or whatever, it causes two problems to me. Is we don't get to actually see the evidence and litigate it out and see what happens. But then the second problem is, even for people who are guilty, every crime can't have a life sentence, because then what's the incentive to really change? Or like, if somebody goes to prison, they did a crime, they do good behavior for like the next 2 decades, they serve their time. Like, we increasingly realize it's not fair to take away someone's right to vote for the rest of their life, or someone never gets to get a job again, or whatever. And that causes a lot of recidivism and all these different problems. And it's like, the problem I kind of have is like, okay, so for some of these people who have been in exile for like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 years for things that were unproven, and some of them weren't even violent, they were considered workplace creeps. Like, when can anybody ever give them a chance again? Or what? Like at least with the traditional criminal court and with the traditional legal system, there's an idea of, this is your penance, you do this, and you're considered to have served your time, or you're found not guilty. So you get a second chance, like things were improving. But now it's like people serve their time, and it's never enough, no matter what the crime is, no matter what the severity of it is. People get acquitted, or they even like win a defamation case, and people are like, well, the court was wrong. The court didn't protect women, and you still should never work again. Or you weren't even taken to criminal trial, which is kind of strange, because it's like, okay, so this is so important, the person didn't even take it to trial, and now, so it's kind of tough. Like, some of these people were just not yeah. So I just don't really know how this is supposed to work, right? Because Brett Ratner directing Rush Hour 4. I don't like Brett Ratner. I think he's a hack. I never liked anything he's done. Not even just the Rush Hour movies. I think the Rush Hour movies are a blight on cinema. But I mean, we got to be honest. They make money for whatever reason. People like those movies. And another problem too is that I think this is something that millennial writers / woke writers have to admit. Their stuff doesn't make money. They will take easy layup properties and run them into the ground. We haven't had a Star Wars movie in years. That used to be a license to print money, because these people ran them into the ground. There's so many canceled Star Trek shows after all the failures that these people have done in Star Trek. And the last one on right now is being bashed for being woke trash, and that used to be a license to print money, and the truth of the matter is, like, these places have to make money, and people are getting sick of these people. But these people want corporations to love them more than they love themselves and their own jobs. Like, people have lost jobs betting on these people and their visions. Like, that's kind of how everyone was cleaned house at Warner Brothers, and it was sold, and David Zaslav took over, because a lot of the stuff being made at Warner Brothers before was in line with these people's vision, and it was unprofitable and terrible. And look at things like Pixar. Pixar has not been the same since John Lasseter left. And the truth of the matter is, like, John Lasseter just made iconic Pixar things. Nothing since he's left, except for I think like one thing. I think Inside Out 2 was considered pretty good. Has been seen as iconic, So Shell only briefly acknowledged a quote unquote inappropriate relationship with an employee when exiting NBC Universal, saying he was truly sorry. But when his Skydance hiring was met with backlash, he stayed silent. Lasseter, too, has kept a low profile since joining the studio. Now, I want to say is, if they said something, is there anything that they could have said that would make these people forgive them? Because I think that's something that's interesting with these people. They always get mad at you when you speak, but they always get mad when you don't speak. But I have not heard yet anybody being forgiven by these people. They just want you to beg and prostrate yourself forever. Like an inappropriate relationship, workplace creepiness. I'm not saying that they're inexcusable, but they should be investigated. People should figure out what went wrong, and then you make a judgment. If you think your judgment was wrong, then you sue for workplace harassment, and then in court they find out, was this something that a reasonable person standard would consider an unbearable? But it's kind of thing now where it's like we're not supposed to go through those motions anymore. Like if you're asking me to actually prove things, it's almost like an insult, But it's like these things get stuck in the he say, she say arena. And based on that, these people are supposed to be banned forever, but we've never actually litigated these things, And like, don't get me wrong, I'm not fighting for the right for Brett Ratner to make movies. Like the world doesn't need a Rush Hour 4. And I'm not even saying that he's innocent. I don't know, but I'm saying like we should litigate these things out. Let me see what happened. Like a fair litigation that's covered fairly, not covered the way the media covers a lot of these things now, which is in a very biased way. Because a lot of people in the media now are just like Tumblr graduates, sadly. In the millennial class of writers. So Paramount, so there was this guy, Brian Wood, another one, Warren Ellis. Both these guys were like top dogs in comics. And they both got accused of different things. And they're both like kind of superstars in the 2000s. And their careers got derailed by their accusations. And Brian Wood was pretty interesting because he was a hotshot, and I think something that happened for him was that I think he might have been seen as a little bit arrogant too. Like he was kind of like a kingmaker, but he also kind of had like his groupies. And I'm gonna put up his allegations now. And he had his groupies and whatever, and he's one of those people that he kind of used his clout and his whatever, his status in the comic book industry to kind of help his dating life, which has its problems. I'm not going to totally excuse it. It's unprofessional or whatever, but he would date a lot of people in the industry. He would kind of use his clout or his stardom, or how hot he was in the industry, to impress aspiring comic professionals who were women, And so here's what happened to him. So he had multiple public allegations of sexual misconduct slash harassment in 2013, mainly 2013, 2019. 2013, someone accused him of misconduct tied to an earlier San Diego Comic-Con encounter, and described a broader pattern of inappropriate behavior and professional fallout. But what happened, he admitted he made a pass at her, but he denied harassment, abuse, threats, quid pro quo, retaliation. But a common thing was that, he was kind of like a womanizer, and he would, at Comic-Con and stuff, like, make passes at women. Another one accused him of making a pass at her. Then she claimed that he harmed her professionally after she rejected him. Another woman said that he grabbed her and tried to kiss her at a bar, then texted her for sex afterward. And so there was like more details about these things when you looked into them. I don't remember which of them involved any type of consensual relationships and which were totally unconsensual. I believe there were some accusations that involved people that he was dating that felt that he was kind of a jerk when they were dating him. Hold on. But the thing that's interesting was 2013 and 2019, he basically was accused of making passes at women. And there were accusations that he was kind of a creep. Now, it's been about, at this point, like 13 years. And it's like he's radioactive. And what I find interesting is that he has done everything asked of him, right? Now, this is not me excusing his behavior, and it's not me saying that he didn't do the worst that he was accused of. Like maybe he was a creep, maybe he was whatever. But the thing that I just kind of find interesting is every time he tries to get work, all these people come out and start attacking him. And they start, getting mad at anybody who wants to give him work or work with him or whatever. And I think like you're free to boycott the thing. Like you don't have to buy what it is or whatever, but you keep making this guy go through, like he's done every single thing, as far as I could tell, that you've asked of him, as far as prostrating himself, making so in all these cases, the stuff was brought up years after it happened, so there was no evidence to really show it, so he did admit that he did try to make passes at the women, but he said that all the other stuff that they were adding on it wasn't true. So it's kind of tough. Like you can't litigate the things. He says, she says, and then the guy has tried to do everything to come out and try to make it right as far as I can see. And at least when you go to court, you go to jail, there's like a sentence. You serve it and you're done. And it's just kind of weird. Like this guy is never supposed to eat again. Basically, like it's just supposed to be the end of his life, and it just seems like there's no scale to anything. It's talking about this guy Brian Wood. He's a comic writer who was very hot. But this is what I found pretty interesting, right? I might have brought this up before. So he had this project. He had this project over at HBO that they couldn't work on, basically because he was considered radioactive. So what ended up happening was that HBO was sitting on this thing. They optioned it, and they couldn't. This thing was called DMZ. And HBO wanted to use it, and they couldn't. They were sitting on it, and it was a problem. So they decided during the Great Awakening. They decided during the Great Awakening to make it. So what they decided to do, and this is something that I thought was pretty bizarre. They decided to bring it back, but now instead of having the main character be a white guy like before, right? This is around 2020 that they decided to make the thing. They made Rosario Dawson the main character. So they made Rosario Dawson the main character, and then they hired Ava DuVernay to work on it, right? Now, for people who don't know, Ava DuVernay, she used to be kind of like this Hollywood PR person / fixer before she became a director / writer, a creative person. She came into the industry through PR, marketing, and kind of being a fixer, like someone who helped fix problems or help rehabilitate images or whatever. And then she parlayed her Hollywood maneuvering into a creative career. That's why a lot of people think she's not that great creatively, and she gets accused a lot of like stealing ideas from people because she's kind of more of a managerial / marketing person, not a creative person, right? So here's where it gets interesting. I also don't know why I can make this take up more of the screen. Did it always look like this? Well, I don't know, but check this out. So they hire Ava DuVernay, and what they're trying to do here is manage the optics. So they do a couple things. They hire, they race bend and gender bend the characters to now make it a multiracial black woman and a black woman in charge of it. So now it's not a white guy. Then they promised Brian Wood would not be involved. So it's his project, it's his work. So this is the thing. He's too radioactive to work with, but he's not radioactive enough for you to use his ideas instead of making up your own and to make money off of them. You know, like it's fine for but that's kind of the whole idea of justice. Like, because you did this wrong thing, we get to use what you made and make money off of it and cut you out of it. But it's also kind of a farce because he's still gonna make some money off of it. Like, you know, he's still gonna get paid, even if he's not actively working on it. Like, you're giving yourself a job off of his work. But you know, but this was interesting. So her being a fixer, I think one of the reasons why they hired her to be creative is not because she has these great creative chops, Ava DuVernay. They hired her because they're like, okay, Ava, we want you to be our woke washer. You know, we want you to use your woke cred to woke wash this thing and let it be okay to release. So her hiring is part of the woke washing itself. Then putting Rosario Dawson as the lead is part of the woke washing. Then look what Ava DuVernay does. So check this article. DMZ, how Laura Hudson's MeToo / Brian Wood story brought her to Ava DuVernay's attention and onto HBO Max series writing staff. Laura Hudson's one of the accusers of Brian Wood. Right? Now, Laura Hudson is let me find what her exact accusation was. Oh, she's the one who accused Wood of grabbing and forcing a kiss at the bar. Hold on a second. So Ava DuVernay is having a pretty good run of things creatively, including critically acclaimed Netflix limited series When They See Us, scoring big at the Emmy Awards, and a turn behind the camera that puts her at the helm of an adaptation of Jack Kirby's New Gods, which ended up being canceled. DuVernay is extending her stay in the DC Comics universe, this time on the streaming side, with the Academy Award nominee overseeing and directing the pilot for HBO Max's upcoming series adaptation of Brian Wood's Vertigo comic, DMZ. This was a big comic in the 2000s. Now we're learning that former Comics Alliance editor-in-chief Laura Hudson, who was one of the accusers, has been working on the writing team for the streaming service adaptation. Just before the clock struck 2020, Hudson shared that she was working as a staff writer on the project for the past 8 weeks. Hudson followed up by walking us through how her hiring came to be. Specifically, she explains how her MeToo story from a few months back that involved sexual assault accusations against Wood by Hudson turned into something positive. It says from a few months back. Okay, so in 2019, she described her allegation. Now, keep in mind, 2019, that was 6 months after the original accusation in 2013, that I believe got him canceled. So people are still coming out the woodworks for like years just to bring up new stories that were too old to be proven and whatever, and never ended up being litigated, right? And I think, not to trivialize having a pass made at you, but I think when you use terms like sexual assault, it's too broad. Because when you read this, if you don't look into what happened, your first idea is that this is like rape or attempted rape, you know? And it's tricky to say this because saying that makes it seem like I'm saying that, you know, forcible passes or nothing. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that we've lost the ability to act like crimes against women can happen on a spectrum, with some things being more serious than others. Like, you know, we can do that with things like a shove to a punch to a stab to a shooting to manslaughter to attempted murder to murder. But it's like with Me Too, like everything became kind of sexual assault with no real further specification, you know? So for a look at Bleeding Cool's past coverage of the Hudson Woods affair, visit these interviews, and then it tells you where you can go to learn about all the projects you had that were canceled, and then the social media backlash faced by comics creator Tess Fowler, but she also came forward with accusations against Wood. Okay. This may sound odd to those of you who remember my Me Too story from a few months back, where I talked about my experience with the original writer of the DMZ comic. They happened many years ago when I was nobody working at a comic book store. So you made a pass with her when she was working at a comic book store. What you don't know is that while sharing my story in 2019 was very unpleasant, it had an unexpected side effect. It put my body of work in the sight line of Ava DuVernay, the director of DMZ. She loved it. She found my number, called me, and offered me the staff writer position. Now, let me ask you this. Do you think it's a weird coincidence that Ava DuVernay stumbled on this woman's story, happened to find her writing, and it was so compelling, she had to put her on the writing staff to the show? No, it's Ava DuVernay being in fixer mode. Ava DuVernay is like, hey, I've been hired to help get this cancel guy's thing made, right? So let me do it, and let me do it as cynically as I can. You know, I'll get some minority women to get some jobs, you know, on his work. I'll turn his vision into something that, you know, is more woke friendly. So change it from being about like a white guy and a white girl and make it about a woman of color. And let me cynically use one of his accusers, who's not even like a well-known writer or whatever, let me go dig her up and give her this token position so I can parade her to make this bulletproof from cancellation. So it's like this guy can't be forgiven. He has to stay underground. He can't show his work, his face, even to celebrate his own work, or he can't even work on his own adaptation. But you won't have enough principles to just throw away the adaptation and cancel it. He's still good enough for you to take his work and eat off of it. And you're going to, it's like vultures. It's like scavengers. You're going to go pick apart his work and divvy out parts of it to his accusers. And to me, I'm like, if this guy is an accuser that traumatized you so much that you have been holding on to this for years, why do you even want to work on his vision? Like, why do you want to put yourself in his head with his characters and work on something that's gonna, at the end of the day, help give him money? Like, Ava DuVernay, if you like her so much, why don't you hire her to work on any of the other things you're working on? If you're writing so compelling, why are you not hiring her to work on anything? But this one thing where she makes a useful shield for you, and then you're never going to use her again. Like, who are you fooling? Like, how, even if you're a believer in this movement, how do you not see this as the most cynical thing ever? A few weeks later, I was sitting in the DMZ writer's room in LA. I wanted to make the jump to creative for a while. So she never made a jump to creative before this, which makes you wonder, what was it that Ava DuVernay saw that made her have to have you in the writing staff if this is your first jump to creative? And this is the perfect opportunity. Ava is amazing. The people I work with every day in that room are incredible. I'm the happiest I've been in a long time. I'd be more interested in hearing what ideas that were so great you came up with, and what made it to the screen. What was your passion here? How did it feel working on your abuser's work and having to read his work and enter his, like it's weird. Like he bothers you enough for you to never be able to forgive him and to hang on to this for years, but you're fine doing this. This doesn't mean I'm never going to do any journalism again, but I ideally like to focus on writing things, whether it's for TV, games, or comics. I haven't looked into it and seen what she's written since this. As Ava suggested to me once, there's another lesson here too. No matter how powerful you are or how powerless someone else seems, you should treat those around you with respect. Not only because it's the right thing to do, but because you never know who someone is going to become. So again, this is what I'm saying about everything's about revenge. I can't remember a time where sharing a MeToo story has ended so positively. And I wanted all of you to know not only that it did, but that it can. Ava did this for me. People like her exist. They lift people up. They give stories different endings. It's something to aspire to. Then Ava wrote, DMZ is a special project to me. Blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I mean, the project was a flop as usual. It came and went. I don't think anybody wrote about it. Nobody cared about it. Because who's really gonna care? Like, Brian Wood's fans, I don't think are gonna watch it. These people are not as good writers as Brian Wood. I used to read Brian Wood's stuff. His stuff was very good. He's a good writer. I'm not saying that they had to hire him, give him work, do whatever, but it's icky to me that he is so unforgivable. But you can like pick apart the carcass, So I'm trying to look at what happened to him since. But yeah, this is a thing that's very kind of interesting about all this. It never gets discussed, right? If you look here. And at first I was surprised that New York Times would write an article like this, but now I realized why they wrote it. They wrote the article because at the time they wrote the article, the Great Awakening was so in full swing that they didn't even realize the possible negative implications of the article. So this article is presented as a full-blown, unequivocal good. But it came out in 2018, right? And what it shows is MeToo brought down 200 powerful men. Nearly half the replacements are women. So 201 lost jobs or major roles in 2018, 124 replacements, 54 women, 70 men. So, it kind of became kind of an incentive, people were getting a lot of work off of this. And then they actually list all 201 cases. This one was especially crazy because this one, Roy Price, the guy, his accusation was really unfounded, and he lost being the head of Amazon Video over it, and he's ended up making like a pretty anti-woke, hardcore heel turn since, and I can't be mad at him because, like, how could you not turn anti-woke after that? Then people end up using that against him, like, oh, look at him, this is why I was right to, But yeah, I mean, it was pretty crazy. His particular case, if you look it up, like, it was totally unfounded. He had to lose his job. He said something while he was drunk, and it turned to this whole, at a party where everybody was drunk, and it turned to this whole thing. But the due process of how it was handled, I think, was the real problem with that one. It was but anyway, there's a lot of cases where accusing these people, and some of them were more founded on legitimate claims than others. Some of them were just unlitigated he say she say accusations. But what happened with the Ava DuVernay thing, I think, was not rare. It was kind of a regular thing to do. It's like someone gets accused, they get kicked out with no due process, and then you use it to get a lot of women jobs. So a lot of women were able to financially benefit. But it's kind of similar to when I talk about Black Lives Matter and stuff, where it's like things happen to the poorest, most vulnerable people in the class, but somehow the face of reparations are always like the rich upper middle class people in C-suites and in celebrities. So it's like Mike Brown dies, somehow it ends up with Oscar So White. George Floyd dies, and suddenly we end up with DEI and Target, and women have been getting harassed and sexually abused and whatever. Like people like maids who work in households who are like, abused, like trafficked women, whatever. Like the face of reparations for women was lean-in feminism and these executives. It's why does everybody keep mentioning FD signifier? Did he talk about this topic or something? I just wonder, because multiple people are bringing him up in this topic, and I'm not sure why. So if you look at this article, it presents it as just an as an unquestionable good case, and I'm not against it. If it's litigated fairly, I just kind of don't like the idea that nobody talks about the actual cases and if they were fair or not fair, which everything is lumped into just bad men gone, good women put in. And I'm sure in some cases it totally was, but I'm sure in some cases, there were some problems. But this was the climate of 2018. You just did not rock the boat. So women are starting to gain power in organizations that have been jolted by harassment with potentially far-reaching effects. Appointing a woman does not guarantee change. Women have also harassed and covered up harassment. Some women face the glass cliff in which women are appointed in leaderships of times of organizational crisis when the chance of failure is higher. And while the share of women who have risen to power in the wake of Mr. Weinstein's fall is significant, women are still vastly underrepresented at the top of American institutions. So basically, Me Too and the fall of Weinstein was primarily seen as a chance for professional women to advance their careers, and this article is making a case for that. This Al Franken thing, I think, was another example of one that I thought was a bit unfair, in that he was kind of railroaded. So Jennifer Salke, who took over for Roy Price as head of Amazon Studio, has said Amazon needed more big addictive shows for women. So Roy Price's ouster for what he said at the party not only got Jennifer Salke a job, but it also affected who got hired at Amazon. Like Amazon threw all that money at Phoebe Water-Bridge for those shows she never made. They threw an outrageous amount of money at her, and Salke signed up on all those. She said needed big addictive shows for women, so she made deals with Lena Waithe and Nicole Kidman. Since Tazina Vega took over from John Hockenberry as the host of The Takeaway, the public radio program, she has done many episodes about gender, including masculinity, women's anger, intersection of gender and race. I'm sure she invited a lot of guests who benefited from that. So it's kind of like it gets these women in charge to be kind of the face of change. And these women also, bringing other women. So I think it kind of causes a big conflict of interest to a point. And I just want to pull up something real quick. So one of the deals that Phoebe Water got was Phoebe Waters has received $60 million from Amazon without making a new show, and it appears she's not alone. How hard do you have to work to earn $60 million in just 3 years? The answer for Phoebe Water-Bridge, at least, was not very hard at all. In 2019, the Emmy-winning creator of the hit TV show Fleabag signed a $20 million a year with Amazon Studios, which is what Salke signed off on. She's one of the people who, Salke wanted to hire to erase the bad taste of harassment that Roy Price left with his drunken remark at a party. Like the ripple effect of this Me Too stuff is pretty amazing, right? Originally, she was supposed to collaborate with Donald Glover in a series based on the 2005 movie Mr. and Mrs. Smith, but she reportedly left the show after a few months because of clashing creative styles. No worries, Amazon said. You can work on a Tomb Raider series instead. However, the Hollywood Reporter notes, since the showrunner, the person who has overall creative authority over a show, is also being hired, it is questionable just how much work would actually be needed by the Fleabag creators. So she wasn't even a showrunner on her own show. So she basically collected $60 million without ever making a show. Now, what's interesting is they renewed her deal 2025. So she basically finessed them for that money. Like during the Great Awakening, she was able to get herself, that job. She got the job indirectly through Me Too in a roundabout way. Saki got the job through Me Too. Through the Me Too, stigma and manifesto mission, Saki was able to justify hiring all these people and pushing through like these kind of woke shows like Rings of Power, and they all like flopped or nothing was made. And then she got renewed in 2025. A salute to proletariat ally Phoebe Water-Bridge. When was the last time any artist managed to seize this much from a major tech company without any productions? She renewed her deal with Amazon per deadline. However, she's moving from her previous 2 exclusive deals. So I'm actually wrong. She actually had 2 deals. So I think the $60 million was one. She had another one, produced nothing. So she had one in 2019. She re-upped in 2023. So I don't know. So she might have got more than 60 million. She has not produced any TV shows under any of her deals, exclusive or otherwise. Previously, she was working with Donald Glover on Mr. and Mrs. Smith, but they parted ways. They greenlit her Tomb Raider adaptation last year. Never came out. She was confirmed to be narrating a documentary series about an octopus for the streaming service on March 3rd. Puck reported on March 28th that Tomb Raider has gone through 2 writers' rooms and tens of millions of dollars in development costs without ever producing a script. So that's crazy. She not only did they pay a bunch of money for this stuff, but they wasted money on these projects, developing them, and nothing ever came out of it. So I don't know what the total amount of money that she got was. Yeah. Yeah, I mentioned this in the last episode, but I thought about the ending of the Target boycotts. And if we have time, I'll mention it again because I don't want to get too sidetracked, right? But I'm going to find out how much money she got total. So she had 60 million for the first deal. Then she extended the deal. But why am I bringing all this up, right? One of the reasons I'm bringing it up is because I think this is important context for why these problematic men might be getting hired by Paramount, because these people have been charged for 10 years. They left nothing of lasting legacy. They've just been taking established IP, running into the ground, making it unprofitable. Things like Tomb Raider, you can't get off the ground. You can't make Lord of the Rings work. You can't make Star Wars work. You can't make Star Trek work. You're ruining the MCU. That was like a license to print money. Like, what is the point of keeping you on? Just to say that we're not bad people, that we're not racist? Like, you're never gonna give us credit anyway. No matter what we do, there's never enough goodwill we could give you. You know, like, how long am I supposed to let you keep emotionally blackmailing us and not make money? And people are losing their jobs over this. So, like, I think Jennifer Salke is gone now. I don't think they ever officially like fired her, but I'm pretty sure her tenure was kind of, I think they gave her kind of like a face-saving job change. But you know, like, people are ruining their own legacies and their own jobs to support these people, and these people are not delivering, and these people are never loyal to anybody anyway. They're not going to care if you get let go. They're not going to have your back. They can't help you anyway. But yeah, I can't find how much she got paid to re-up her deal, but basically she signed 3 deals in a row without producing anything. Fleabag was good, but Fleabag wasn't made under that deal. Fleabag was what kind of got her hot and put her on the radar to get the deal. But Fleabag was great, but she didn't make it under her Amazon deal, unfortunately. Yeah, but she finessed them, right? So there was a lot of people under the whole Great Awakening who either didn't produce anything and were given these deals, or they made crap that was just woke versions of things that previously were guaranteed to make money, that they antagonized all the fans of the thing, picked fights with them, called them bigots, drove them away, and then blamed them for the thing failing. And it's like, what is the point of hiring you? Like, what do you bring to the table outside of telling me I'm a good person, which you never do? All you do is tell me I'm bad when I stop helping you out. But the whole time I'm helping you, you just act entitled to it, right? So back to this article. It goes, Paramount declined to comment for the story. This spate of hirings is a trend that appears to be in line with the anti-DEI retrenchment of this era, led by President Trump, who has made a priority of rolling back diversity initiatives. For the women in the industry, it's a problem. When companies rehire or promote men accused of sexual harassment, they send a blunt message to every woman in the room. Your safety is negotiable and your voice won't change the outcome. Kristen Schaefer, CEO of Women in Films, told The Wrap when asked about Paramount. In an industry built on power, that choice doesn't just erode trust, it reinforces the very silence we fought to break. Samantha Shepard, an associate professor of cinema and media studies and chair in the Department of Performing and Media Arts at Cornell University, said this not only fits into the Ellison's handling of Paramount Skydance, but in the broader narrative of Hollywood history. Okay, but none of these people are executives. This woman works in something called she's a CEO of Women in Film, which is not like really a profit-based industry. And this woman here is in academia. These people have to make money. It's a corporation. Like, corporations are supposed to be scumbags. This is something that I can't get over. This idea of this woke corporation that's supposed to be my friend that I can just continually extort for with emotional blackmail. This is meant to signal a number of things, she said. The boys are back in charge. That's what this really is. The boys club has returned, and they can do this because they've eventually bought up all the competition. But if you guys were making money, they would hire you. If you guys were good, they would hire you. Like, I don't like Brett Ratner's writing. I think Rush Hour movies suck, but I have to admit, he has his finger on the pulse. He makes the crap that people want to see. He has a finger on the pulse of something. Because those 3 movies did very well. And to this day, when I see people talk about it online, people are fond of those movies. Like, I thought in a couple of years, people would look back at them and be like, wow, those movies suck. But I've seen people still defend those movies when they come up in conversation. The rehabbing of MeToo figures, especially those who were not criminally convicted of wrongdoing. And I feel like this is crazy. You just casually bring this up like it's a minor thing. Especially those, but I think those are the people who should most get the chance to be rehabbed. If you're not bringing these people to court, if you're not making the case criminal, like, what can we do? Like, how long are we supposed to, but mainstream Hollywood organizations have lately been averse to rehiring these men who often find work on the fringes at smaller establishments. And this kind of thing, like, these people are either not working or they're working on the fringes or at smaller establishments, right? We're not trying these people. There's no higher power that's making judgments about how much penance is enough. And I don't understand. So, like, industry observers say Paramount isn't making a statement about second chances, but instead more practically hiring individuals who are now less expensive. Before his 2019 downfall over allegations of sexual and emotional abuse, Chronicle screenwriter had a quote of $2 million per project. Now, 7 years after the misconduct allegations surfaced, Landis is writing Paramount's G.I. Joe treatment. A rep for Landis not respond to the Wrap's request for comment. Now, I feel like making it about them just being cheaper, I don't think is fair, because I think also these people have fan followings. Like, these are people who people actually like their work and they have a track record of doing successful work. Like, Landis wrote this movie called Bright that sucked. But he did Chronicle, which was a huge hit and that people really looked at fondly, and he has a track record of doing things that people like. He has his fans. So they're taking advantage of the marketplace and getting high level talent for cheap. And this kind of gives it away because they're trying to focus it on the cheapness as if that's unfair. Like they're doing something dirty by working for cheap. And it's like, okay, like when is enough enough? So it's not enough that they don't work or that they work for cheap. Like, so they're not even supposed to make less of a salary. This guy's been working for 7 years. You admit that they've been on the fringes for like 7+ years. And you casually mention high level talent like there's nothing, but this is a corporation. They're supposed to get high level talent for cheap. Like, why would you get mediocre talent for cheap or mediocre talent for high expense? Like, what is in it for them to not hire these people, especially if they're not criminally proven of anything wrong, A top deal maker agreed. I don't see it as a cultural statement. Studios like Paramount Pictures are ultimately an asset business. Like, okay, nice that somebody brings that up, but of course it's a deal maker, somebody who actually works in business. Hiring someone like Max Landis or Brett Ratner is more likely about acquiring distressed creative assets at a price below their historic market value. It's very creepy to see someone talk about human beings like that. That's very creepy. That makes sense when considering Paramount is about to take on mountains of debt in its $110 billion acquisition of Warner Brothers Discovery, and is still in the middle of cutting costs from its merger with Skydance last year. Acquiring talent on the cheap would help its long-term goal of producing an impressive 30 films a year between its own studio and Warner Brothers. And I feel like they keep focusing on the cheap part to not focus on the talent part. And I think really they want people who are likely to make money. There's a different cost to hiring what someone would consider to be damaged goods. Paramount is vying with other studios to hire filmmakers like Christopher Nolan or Greta Gerwig, who can reliably turn out a massive hit. I'm not that convinced with Greta Gerwig. She did Barbie. Barbie was a big IP. That's, as far as I know, was the only massive hit. She did Lady Bird. Can you consider that a massive hit? I don't know, but I don't think Greta Gerwig is as good a deal as some of these other people like John Lasseter. I think it's a no-brainer. John Lasseter has a crazy track record of original properties that didn't have a built-in love for them. And to be honest, I just don't think Greta Gerwig Barbie was that good. Paramount has signed some impressive first-look deals with squeaky clean and bankable filmmakers like John Chu, James Mangold, Dan Trachtenberg, and the Duffer Brothers, an interproducing deal with Issa Rae, which makes it another problem here. People who are kind of woke-friendly but have a track record of doing success are getting hired. They're hiring an Asian man. They're hiring some white guys. They're hiring a black woman. They're giving her a producing deal. So at the end of the day, it's about proving a track record. Like you have a track record of creating stuff. So it isn't like they're freezing out minorities and women. It's more about these people should never ever eat or work again. The men at Paramount, John Lasseter, the driving force behind Pixar's revolutionizing of the animated industry, took a leave of absence for Disney, where he oversaw both Pixar and Walt Disney Studios Animation. After allegations surfaced in November 2017 that he frequently made a habit of grabbing, kissing, making comments about the physical attributes of women at the company, he apologized and acknowledged missteps, but left Disney when his contract was up at the end of 2008. Ellison Skydance wasted no time in scooping Lasseter up, appointing him as the head of the newly formed Skydance Animation in 2019. At the time, Skydance said that it had conducted its own investigation into Lasseter's behavior at Pixar and cleared him of wrongdoing. After the announcement was made, there was a fraught town hall meeting where employees of the company expressed their concerns about Lasseter's appointment. Since Lasseter's installation, Skydance has only produced 2 films, both released through generous output deals with streamers. Luck was released through Apple TV. Spellbound was designed to take on Disney's fairy tale crown, but had the misfortune of debuting on Netflix alongside the theatrical release of mega hit Moana 2. Luck had particularly tumultuous development. But Lasseter recruited Disney pals Brad Bird, Rich Moore, and Don Hall to make films for the new studio. Then it goes on with Landis and the things that he was accused of, including from ex-girlfriends, including physical, emotional abuse, rape, choking, unwanted sexual touching during an overnight trip to Disneyland. A woman said she's witnessed Landis raping her disoriented friend. Landis was never charged with misconduct and never investigated, with the LAPD not receiving any formal complaints from Landis' alleged victims, but he acknowledged some of what has been said about me is true in a lengthy 2021 blog where he admitted to emotional abuse. So he said he wasn't always the best boyfriend emotionally, but he didn't admit to any of the harsher claims, and he said he was innocent of them. But he also said that to refute them one by one and whatever, or just the optics would look terrible, because then it would look like, he said that there was no way to win. So he's kind of been on the periphery as well. So he was doing very good before, and then he was doing, and then they mentioned Johnny Depp, and this one I think is kind of tricky because he had his day in court, and that to me is kind of even scary. The idea that you can have your day in court, you can be seen as vindicated by people, and you still aren't allowed to work again. And I just feel like it's kind of tough because we always have the option of not watching these things, but I think it's kind of scary to create this world of like permanent punishment. But I'm going to talk about something else that I think is kind of tricky. I think there is this normalized climate of people feel that they're entitled to replace people, but they don't want to fight to replace them by being better. So this story came in that Jonathan Majors, I don't know enough about his trial. I mean, Jonathan Majors is different because he was found guilty of some stuff, so you can at least make a claim that, you know, he was found guilty of stuff. But I think what made Jonathan Majors' case kind of tough too is it's so recent. You know, maybe it's still within the acceptable window of still blacklisting him. Like, the problem I have is that no matter how much time he passes or how minor the things he was found guilty of, 4 or 5, 7, 9 years, every time he's gonna go for a role, these same people are gonna say it's not enough. They're gonna want him to say something. Even after he says it, they're not gonna care. And then they're probably gonna try to extort jobs out of it for themselves. Like it's just kind of a farce to me. So Pixar is having a similar issue, right? Pixar was having these movies where like a bunch of like woke creators were using Pixar movies to make movies about themselves and their identity groups instead of making movies that had a universal appeal, which is what Pixar used to do. Pixar's movies used to be like, no matter what your race, what your age, what your gender, you can tap into, like, it'll be about fatherhood, about growing up, about maturing, about death, you know, and love. And they want to just make movies about, like, you know, being this race or being gay or whatever. So this recently came out March 7th, Pixar's Pete Docter says Queer Elio storyline was axed because, quote, we're making a movie, not hundreds of millions of dollars of therapy. And I think what's crazy about this is in 2018, 2020, an executive would never have said that. There would have been revolt among the company because at that time, activist employees were very empowered and they were fighting with the bosses all the time. And I think, that doesn't exist anymore. They use layoffs as an excuse to lay off a lot of those people. I think the people that are left, they don't feel as bulletproof as before. Like before, you can just be sanding the gears all you wanted. They wouldn't fire you. It was crazy. Like there were people who were, like I remember this one trans woman at Netflix who spent all her years there always fighting and putting Netflix on blast on Twitter and protesting on the job. And, at the end of the Great Awakening, they fired her and she acted like, I thought we were family. I can't believe this. And she started tweeting about how betrayed she felt. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe the amount of chances you got. You should have been happy. Like you were an agitator on that job. Like you treated that job like you were being paid to protest and lasted so long. But people just felt like very confident. I don't think people feel like confident anymore. Those kind of people were let go like for more benign reasons, but I think deep down because of what agitators there were. I think the people that are left, they don't feel as bulletproof. But Pixar chief creative officer Pete Docter explained the animation company's vision to axe the storyline last year's Elio, which initially featured a plot point reflecting original director Adrian Molina's experience growing up gay. Docter told Wall Street Journal bluntly of the reasoning behind the creative overhaul, in which the Disney studio subsidiary found that some parents didn't want media to broach topics they weren't ready to discuss with their children. We're making a movie, not hundreds of millions of dollars of therapy, he said. But I think he means specifically therapy of the director. Because some people would claim that Pixar movies, were a kind of therapy, but I think they're more of a group therapy. Like the whole audience, everybody was going through therapy watching the movie because it was like a universal journey. Whereas now it's more like you're watching someone else get therapy that is foreign to you, that you have no connection to. And the movie's only for other people who are in a similar situation to the director, so they can feel like it's their therapy too, but it's not everybody's therapy. It's an individual therapy. The box office flop, and again, it was a flop. All these movies are flops because they have no sense of the universal. And they don't care about making a profit. They just care about being quote unquote seen. The creator and their identity being seen, they don't care about the movie itself being seen, because these movies flop. The box office flop, which follows the 11-year-old underdog who forms unlikely bonds with extraterrestrials, was later shepherded by directors Domi Shi and Madeline Sharafian. Previous iterations of the movie included a scene that depicted Elio raising a child in the future with a male crush, per the WSJ. Though Pixar was previously focused on original products, it is now aiming to pipeline content with sequel potential and more universally palatable storylines. Again, that universal thing, as opposed to director-driven, semi-autobiographical tales of the past, like She's Turning Red. So again, like these things are all autobiographical and navel-gazing and about themselves, and to the exclusion of everyone else. So they're driving themselves, and this kind of relates to the Paramount thing, because the Paramount thing is bringing these people in to work on IP, to work on sequels, to work on old projects or things that these people worked on. And here, Pixar is moving away from original works. And I think it's because a lot of these people drove things in the ground so bad that now they want to go back to people and properties that work. They have no room to make risk anymore. They have no room to lose money. They lost a lot of money on these people, And I think it's kind of the problem here is a lot of these people don't want to face that not being up to snuff is the reason why these old heads are being rehired. They would gladly get rid of these people, but they're rehiring old school people left and right. The MCU movies are going back to old writers and old directors after trying all these Rick and Morty staff millennial writers. It's I think the problem here is it's a corporation. Like, we have to stop looking to corporations for morality. Like, it's like sexual misconduct, but is the sexual misconduct proven? Is it litigated? Or is it just the accusation? And then how long do you ban them for based on an unlitigated accusation? I think it's tough, but people act like these people weren't punished. Like, people lost jobs, people lost millions, people didn't work for or worked in marginal ways or fringe ways for 10 years. So I think it's kind of tough. Like, they deserve way more punishment, but okay, but how much? I think is a problem. Like, all we know is they deserve more, but I don't know when the end comes. And I think people just think that they can just have these kind of open-ended punishments or ideas for people they don't like. But then what's going to happen when you're the person who is being unfairly accused of something, or you're the person who's not being given due process, someone that you care about? Like, how do you turn it back on after you've allowed it to be turned off so bad? Because I think this is true too. I think you can make something reflect your individual experience, but also make it universal. I think that's totally true. I think these people they're almost hostile to making things universal, which is a whole different thing. But it brings me to this thing I want to talk about that was going viral the other day. This woman tweeted this, which I thought was pretty interesting. The post is gone. That's annoying. I guess she got too much grief over it. You know what? Forget it. This ruins everything. I can't make the point without. Let me see if somebody screen capped it. Oh well, it's gone. Yeah, so you know what? I'm gonna try to find it and then make the point later in another live stream. This has gone long enough anyway. But yeah, I think a problem that's going to happen. Oh wait, I think I could find it. Here we go. Let's see if this works. Okay, here we go. So this woman said this. Her name was Rose the Artist. I don't know why it's showing here, but it wasn't showing. It was shown as deleted elsewhere. But she says, rap is dying because it's always been a young person's game. But the old men won't move out of the way for the young ones. They're 40 plus, still trying to be the face of the culture. Let the youth lead. That's how rap stayed fresh for decades. So this kind of idea that we're entitled to this because we're young, and we're not becoming the stars. We're not becoming iconic. We're not creating a legacy because you old guys won't get out of the way. And then what they've done is they've created this alternative history that never existed. They created this alternative history where all past generations became big because people got out of the way. So the stars of the Gen X era, the stars of the millennial era, the stars of the I don't know what the stars of the millennial era are. I guess that would be J. Cole and and Kendrick, I would say. The stars of the boomer era in any field or whatever. The only reasons why they became the faces of things and took over from their old heads was because they were coronated. I call it the coronation fallacy. This idea that old heads were like, okay, guys, we're stepping down. This is a new person that you all have to like. And that they crowned the person and they told everyone, okay, guys, you're going to like them. And then everybody was just such slaves to the old heads that they were like, yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're all going to like them. And somehow that's not happening now. And it was never, ever like that. Like, old heads had to be pushed off the stage. But on top of that, if you were legitimately good, the old heads also celebrated you. They didn't hate you just to hate on you. Like, but also the young heads gave back because they revered the old heads. So it's like when Nas was coming up, Cool G Rap and Rakim and all these people, they didn't say, hey guys, don't listen to us anymore. You guys have to like Nas. Like, no, Nas and Jay-Z and those people were so good. And Biggie were so good. Everybody stopped and took notice. Tupac, people took notice of these 19-year-olds, these 21-year-olds, or whatever. But also, the old heads were some of their biggest fans because they were just so good. But then also, the young heads did songs with the old heads because they were so appreciative of what the old heads did. But this kind of alternate universe where the young people just were just handed their audiences by the old people, and the old people graciously gave up. No, the old people were trying. Like Big Daddy Kane he put Jay-Z on, but he was also trying to compete to the very end. He didn't sabotage Jay-Z. He put young people on, but he never just say, hey guys, I'm stepping off the stage or whatever. I mean, he eventually stepped off the stage, but it wasn't like this clean break. I'm stopping because I got to let the young people make money. There was an overlap, and someone put this thing by Jay-Z I thought was very good. I thought it was pretty good. Let me know if you hear the sound. Yeah, but you see, rap is dying because it's a young person's game, but the old men won't move out of the way for the new ones. But the old men are coming back because the young guys aren't cutting the mustard. Like, they're not putting a gun to people's heads, forcing people. Like no one's forcing people to buy J. Cole or Kendrick or the Clips or, all these other people who are coming back in their 40s and 50s to make music. It's because it's just the best stuff out there.
Another thing I understand, like we as a culture, we look at our OGs and be like trying to move them, where we should be trying to like go with them. Because the longer I stretch this out, the longer runway you have. Right? Because at some point, young people get old. We all gonna get old. Like at some point, we all gonna die and shit. That's a certainty of life. That's what makes it so exciting. While you're here, you better do the best you can because you only got a certain amount of time before you're not here anymore. So it gives urgency, or else you just be laying on the couch every day. Some people still do, but just wasting your life away if you didn't say, man, I better start doing some shit because, you know what I mean? And just extending the runway for everyone.
Complaining does nothing. Make music, make some great music, and that's the end of it. Like, I don't even know what to say.
I'm too busy winning to hear their complaints. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I just don't care about it. It's almost like a loser's mentality. It's like everyone's so spoiled. Like it's like he won't let me shine. I even heard someone say like, "Yo, why Jay won't let Kanye?" I'm like, "Let Kanye. Kanye's Kanye. He's gonna do what he does." That's a loser's mentality. When we would. It sound like one of those rappers when we were coming up. I mean,
but the thing right there. I want to stop that. That's something I find very interesting. Right. We've reached this point now where people are embarrassed to be elders. Like, no matter what point you're making, I notice people always have to be like, I sound like an old head, or I don't want to sound like that. But you're an elder. That's what you're there for. Like, I mean, as annoying as people my parents' generation were, they never apologized. Like, I think maybe because when we were young, our parents and grandparents were too much into being elders and never gave us any credit for, maybe understanding things that they don't, or realizing that sometimes young people understand things that old people don't. But unfortunately, we've overcompensated where we just want, we're like apologetic to share our experience. We're ashamed or embarrassed that we're doing something wrong to be elders, so we're ending up with this culture. We don't have elders, we just have olders, like just people, they're just older, they and I think people welcome it because they actually welcome the less responsibility of not having to be an elder and letting the young people just do whatever they want to do. But that's my one problem with this speech is I hate that he had to stop it. That's something I wish that we would break.
With Outkast, Lauren, Q-Tip, all of them in 1 week. Everybody did good. Look at the chart now. It's Wale, number one. This is like a shameless plug. Rock Nation managed artist, J. Cole, which would probably go to number one next.
Yeah, but think about the deep bench that he talks about. Like Lauryn Hill, Tupac, Biggie, Jay-Z, Outkast. Like that stuff was coming out weeks apart. Do you think any old heads could have stopped them? But also, do you think they wanted to? Like, they didn't want to because they were fans too. They were fans of the shit too. Like, they didn't hate on the stuff because it was legitimately good. But when new stuff was bad, old heads would diss you. The difference is the bad stuff didn't stand the test of time, so we don't really hear about it. When stuff was bad, old heads would diss it. But the bad stuff wasn't treated like with kid gloves, so it never stood the test of time. No one talks about it today. Like now, the bad stuff makes it to the top, and then the bad stuff complains that it's not being treated like the good stuff.
Next week again, no, for the first time ever, but he'll go to number one, Rock Nation, and it's Kanye. Everyone's flourishing. You got to be out. You got to be able to compete. Still sharp and still. You got to get out there and you got to earn your spot. It's not given. It's such a spoiled brat losers mentality it's annoying.
Yeah, it's really crazy. And if you look at this thing, so it is showing here, right? So for some reason it didn't show before, but now it shows. So it says rap is dying because it's always been a young person's game. This is what started controversy, but old men will move out of the way for the new ones. They're 40 plus, still trying to be the face of the culture. Let the youth lead. That's how rap stayed fresh decades, and that's not how it stayed fresh. The old heads were doing great, and then the young heads elevated the game to the next level. And then the old heads gave them their blessing, and the young heads, when they could, tried to give back. Nas did songs with Cool G Rap. Dre tried to keep Rakim working. Corrupt was always giving shout outs to Rakim. Rakim was giving shout outs to Corrupt. Snoop was giving his flowers to Slick Rick, and Big Daddy Kane was putting on new rappers like Jay-Z and was feeling pride when he took off. So then somebody said this: if the young rappers out rap the old ones, then they could be the face. The existence of older rappers doesn't prevent the younger ones from being good. And then she wrote something, but it's gone, unfortunately. This is the one that's gone. This is the one. See, this is weird because it's unavailable again. So her posts appear and reappear. I don't know why, but the original person who wrote this, it's gone now. But she responded, they shouldn't have to. So this person, the one who she's responding to, the one who started this whole conversation, said the young rappers shouldn't have to out rap the old ones, which I thought was crazy. I guess at some level she got some sense of shame about it because I don't see the response anymore. But she did respond. They shouldn't have to. And then this guy responds, the thing is, y'all would never admit they did. y'all are nostalgia merchants. So this person still doesn't want to give up the idea that these people are just withholding what they deserve, you know. So he's saying if the new artists were better than the old artists, y'all still been, well, give an example of who the new artists are who are better than J. Cole, Kendrick, and the Clips, and Pharrell, and LL Cool J, who just had a new album that was pretty good, or Jadakiss. Like, give the names, you know, but they won't. They just want to keep insisting that you know, you got that old heads are doing something different than before, that, you know, the new stuff is as good. And which brings you to this video that I found pretty interesting. And this is something that I want to talk about. Yeah, JID is pretty good, but even JID, he's approaching his mid-30s. Like, I think JID is 35. Like, every time I think of somebody really good, they're older than you think. And the examples that, you know, Jay-Z was giving, like, those are people like in their early 20s, late teens, who were just killing the game, you know? So it's kind of tough, because I've done this too. And it's hard to think of somebody who is in their early 20s, late teens killing it. But this was something that I thought was pretty interesting. This was a clip from 6 years ago. This teenage guy called Almonte. And I just want to play this real quick, because this was a epidemic that was happening.
Instagram, which is the Almonte Films. Y'all can follow me there if y'all want to send me any more videos to react to. I stumbled upon this post from Nexus, one of my favorite meme pages. Damn, the state of rap is 2019. We need to go back to the basics, because it's obvious these rappers don't give a fuck about the music. The caption goes, shaking my head, bro. Watching this video made me mad as hell. This is the people we making famous? Nah, bro. Whatever happened to loving what you make? Damn, I sound like an old head. What y'all think? Y'all agree?
You see, there it goes again. They always got to give an apology and say it sounds like an old head. And I just wish people would stop fucking saying that. Like, it's okay. Like, just stop acting like you're meant to go extinct. You know, because it's being shown more and more that the game needs you, because, you know, you come back and you're the only ones who sell and make things. And that's what's happening with the Paramount thing, where they keep hiring old people, because for whatever reason, the younger people don't want to take instruction from the older people, and something is being lost. And these people can't even sell among young people. They can't even sell amongst their peers. And, you know, they have to keep calling people, whether it's old Hollywood writers or old Gen X rappers, but, you know, they have to keep bringing out, or elder millennials, that they're carrying the stuff.
Did you ever write like poetry or anything? Nothing associated?
Nothing at all. Not
what
even,
the hell made you wake up?
I don't even like music. I don't care about that.
Don't say that.
I don't. Nah, keep all of that. Keep all that.
So you
don't like performing. I don't like rapping.
This is gonna be a young boy.
I do this for money. I got money now. I ain't got no excuse to do this no more.
I like to make money.
So there's this thing where people are just taking pride at how little they care about the craft. It's like a flex to be anti-craft and anti-effort. I think part of it is like a protection, because I think they're afraid. I think they feel like there's no more peaks to be had, and to go past Biggie, to go past Jay-Z, to go past Nas. I think they just kind of feel like, damn, I don't even want to pretend that I want to be that good, because I don't think I can do it. So I want to disparage even caring. I think it's like a self-protection thing.
I don't really give a fuck about being lyrical. I don't give a fuck about this and that. If that don't work for me, I don't care. I like to make shit that's gonna make me fucking money. I like to make shit that's gonna climb me up on the charts. Like, that's what I want. I want to be up top of the charts. I want to make money. I don't care about none of that. I know so many lyrical people.
Oh,
Did you ever write
That's crazy, because
And the thing is, like, there's a lot of instances of people, Tekashi 6ix9ine. There's a bunch of different rappers who gave interviews like this. I was trying to make a compilation, and it was just too many, and I just got lazy, and I feel like cutting it all up. So I used examples from this one.
I knew Blueface was a football player before this, somebody that literally blew up out of nowhere. Like, all of these huge industry heads, Nicki Minaj, Cardi B, was making these.
Yeah, but you get a lot of people who just think of this stuff as a platform to something else, or as a way to make money, or they take pride in how trash they are. And this is what I'll say. I think you have a right to do that. That might surprise people to hear me say that. I don't think we should force people to pretend to care about things they don't want to care about. And if they can make a lot of money being mediocre, who am I to tell the audience that they can't buy? I mean, there were people who made a lot of money being mediocre back in the day. They didn't stand the test of time, though. You know, like you don't really hear their music. But in our day, there were plenty of mediocre rappers who made more money and had more instant fame than a lot of the great rappers. But the thing is, they didn't stand the test of time, and they didn't feel entitled to stand the test of time. They didn't go around complaining, why are we not being held in the same regard as you know, so and so, you know, like they kind of knew what they were doing was just stuff for the moment, and it wasn't, you know, that great. And you know, they'll talk about being one-hit wonders when you have stuff like when they have stuff like I Love the 80s and stuff like that, they'll be on it, and you know, they'll talk about what a good time they had with their one hit, you know, whatever. Like, and that's that. You don't see like Young MC or Tone Loc complaining that, you know, they're not being held in the same regard as Tupac. Like, I think one of the problems that I kind of have with a lot of this younger generation is you can't have it both ways. You can't take pride in not caring, but then also want the same results. Like you act like caring about rap is corny. You act like caring about lyrics is corny, but you expect when the time comes to be handed a place in the Hall of Fame to replace the people who did openly care. That's why I think it's very bizarre, is trying to have it both ways. Like even someone like Soulja Boy, like somebody brought up Soulja Boy, but the Soulja Boy's credit, like I actually didn't take Ice-T's side with the Soulja Boy thing, because Soulja Boy never pretended to be more than he was, and then Soulja Boy never shit on the old heads, and Soulja Boy never acted entitled to a place in hip hop royalty. So I was like, you know, let the kid do what he wants to do with his ringtone music. Like I don't think it's good, but it's in no way acting like it deserves to replace what is good. So he's making music for the kids, whatever. But like if you look, to give an example, right? LL Cool J and Greg Nice from Nice and Smooth, I've seen them have this show where they salute this segment called Salute the Sample, and I want to show it real quick. It's very interesting, and I think this is kind of the problem that these people don't have, right? So you have people like Blueface and all these people who act like caring about things is corny, right? And whatever, caring about rap is corny, putting effort in your lyrics is corny, you know, and all that stuff. But this is interesting because LL Cool J is like, and Greg Nice are both in the 50s. They've been in this forever, but this segment I find very interesting.
We got a support chopper on this one. This is hot. We gonna play a joint chopper.
Like they're still fans.
Feeling this. Greg Nice. What's up, man? Time to salute the sample, baby. Yo, man, I seen that clip of you the other day. It was funny.
So they sit here and they still, even now, when neither of them are making real money off of rap anymore or whatever, they still fanboy out. And it's crazy that people who are actively making money from rap feel above fanboying out over rap or acting like they even have any respect for it.
As hell, man.
You know, they talking about the GOAT. And you're like, I invented the term the GOAT. I was laughing just as hard as you was laughing, man. I was like, you know, crazy out here. What they need to do is tune into RTB, Rock the Bells Radio, on YouTube.
You know, read all the articles, learn all about the heroes of your heroes of your heroes,
Yes.
and all the champions of hip hop. You learn about all the champions of hip hop.
Yeah, but you said how much they talk about the importance of learning the history and everything. Like they still care about this shit.
At Rock the Bell, so that's what it is. You know what I'm saying?
I think this is something very interesting. Like it became uncool to care about things, or just like it's okay to be a stan, but the stan is a parasocial thing. Like it's okay to worship somebody's money, what kind of women they have, the chart position, but something about caring about the actual craft for some reason is corny. Like it's not like being a fan is uncool, because people are fans more than ever. They're just a weird type of fan. It's a parasocial. It's like a dick riding thing. It's okay to be a total, almost homosexual dick rider, but to actually care about the craft, because of the craft, not like the extent to which people care about the craft now. They care about the craft like this. Oh yeah, that's not good. Then why did it go double platinum? Why did they get a Grammy? Like even the caring about the craft, they defer to its popularity with other people or an appeal to authority. Like they won't really break down what the favorite lyric was or how they flipped the sample. They don't even know what the sample is. Like they don't care. They're uncurious. They just like the parasocial dick writing aspect.
Yes, sir.
So it's time to salute samples. Z. Let's get
Trip.
Let's go.
Jesus, man. These guys right here.
So this is Kool in the Gang. This is Winter Madness, 1975. Now they had Summer Madness,
right?
But this is Winter Sadness,
right?
So they give me a history lesson. Talking about there was a song called Summer Madness, and the Kool Gang had Winter Sadness.
Ain't that crazy?
I didn't know about that. Did you know about
What's crazy is he's still learning. This is what's interesting. At this age, he's still a fan.
Winter Sadness?
No, I didn't.
I knew about Summer Madness.
I can't even lie, man. I've had Winter Sadness, but I didn't know about Winter Sadness.
1975.
By the way, this is one of my favorite bands of all time.
They're unbelievable. I mean, Jungle Book is probably one of the best records. That's my ring walk if I walk into the ring. If I was
And you know, it's kind of interesting, right? Kool and the Gang is like, they're old heads. So you see, even as an old head, he's still reminiscing fondly about his old heads. And that's what part of sampling was that you were keeping old heads you liked alive.
Better do some celebrity boxing or something. My ring walk is Jungle Book. You know what I mean? Everybody's like, "But he really do celebrity?" No, I'm not doing no. I ain't doing that shit.
Yeah, what's that all about?
Huh?
What's that all about?
Cash. Okay, that's pretty simple answer. 1975, Kool and the Gang. Okay. All right. So what did this? How did they flip this wonderful Kool and the Gang joint?
So it's ill because this sample right here, they sped it up incredibly. It's coming up right here. Check this out.
So
I'll do it for you.
By the way, they're one of the most sampled groups of all time.
Really?
Right here.
So they start speeding it up.
That guitar lick, right?
Yep, we know who that is.
Woo!
Yes, sir. Peace to brother DJ Prince Hakeem, son of Robert Kool Bell.
So he flips the sample in real time.
Oh boy. Winter Sadness by Kool and the Gang. Sped up. So once they sped it up, what did it become, Z?
My God.
Tupac.
Yeah. Wow. Tupac. Right. Danny Boy. Big Sight CPO. Picture me rolling. My niggas look mad.
Yeah, and they also did one with Souls of Mischief. And what's interesting is, right, when Tupac and Souls of Mischief were coming out, they were the new heads replacing people like LL Cool J. LL Cool J was considered an 80s old head relic by then, you know? So it's interesting that he's not just a fan of what came before him, he's a fan of what came after him. But LL Cool J, his career overlapped well into Tupac's career, well into Souls of Mischief career. Like, there was no sense of, I've got to get off stage because these people are coming up and they need the help. You know, there was enough for everyone to eat, but there's also an appreciation. The new heads appreciated the old heads appreciated the new heads, and it's so this kind of revisionism I think is very weird, but I think it also translates to the Paramount article, this kind of idea Why are you hiring these old guys? Um, we shouldn't have to write better than them. We should just be able to point out that they're problematic and get them out of the way like that. And why can't we use these accusations to keep them out forever? And it's unfair that they're not being kept out. And, at the end of the day, I don't think they really care that much about what these people did, because like with the DMZ example, you're happy to make money working on their stuff. You're happy to adapt their stuff. You're happy to do projects that will make these people money. Like, there's a bunch of people who still make money working off of Buffy projects. They want to have diverse people take over the Buffy stuff, and they're claiming that they hate Joss Whedon. I'm like, why are you even working on the thing then? Just make something different. Like, why do you still want to pick apart the fruits of his creativity? Like, if you're gonna cancel him, just like cancel him, but they don't have the integrity to do that. Maybe, I don't know. I would need some examples of this, because the people that did not like the backpack music because they just didn't like the craft, or they just think it wasn't good or it was corny. Because I don't think you're obligated to like everything. If a backpacker doesn't want to like gangster rap, or a gangster rapper doesn't want to like backpack, I think it's different. I think it depends on why you don't want to like it. Like if you don't like it because you think it's corny or you can't relate to it, that's different than saying they work too hard. I don't like how much work they put into rapping. Like, so if you're not liking backpack rap, because I used to not like some of the raucous era backpack rap. They used to rap about molecules all the time and shit like that. I didn't want to hear people rap about molecules. I didn't like that stuff. I like the earlier backpack stuff, like Black Moon, But even that was still kind of street. It talked about like shooting people and stuff. When all the backpack stuff started talking about molecules, like I wasn't interested in it. But it wasn't because I didn't like craft or I didn't like effort. I just didn't like what they were talking about. And in the 90s, I didn't like a lot of West Coast gangster rap, but I recognized the craft in it. Like I learned to like West Coast gangster rap after the fact. So I think it depends. I need an example to know. But the punk analogy is weird because I have split feelings about it. Because I think I like that punk democratized music, but even if they only knew 3 or 4 chords, I think they still cared about making it as good as it could. But I do think after a while, the whole democratization thing started getting too far, because then there's some people that's like, okay, maybe we need some gatekeepers, because some of this stuff is too, like, for example, like one thing with Velvet Underground that people used to always say, and I think they say with Sonic Youth too, they were saying, I like Velvet Underground because I think the music was really good. But the common thing everyone says about Velvet Underground was that not a lot of people bought Velvet Underground, but everyone who did formed the band. And a lot of people say the best thing about Velvet Underground was that they made you realize I don't have to be a great singer or a great instrumentalist to form a band. And I think it's a dangerous reason to lionize somebody, because I think the reason why you should lionize Velvet Underground is they weren't virtuosos of singing and they weren't virtuosos of instruments, but somehow they still made amazing music. Like that's the part that I hate that people leave out. Like at the end of the day, it still has to be good. It's like when people say to defend something, oh, this thing was great because it was so influential. And I'm like, being influential doesn't make it great. If anything, if it's bad, being influential actually makes it worse, because that means that this thing spread bullshit everywhere. Like, being good is different than being influential. If you're bad, being influential actually becomes a bad thing, because that means that you spread a bad influence. everywhere. So I think at the end of the day, the question always has to be, is it good? So I think even with democratization, it should be, they showed that you didn't have to be as great a singer or as great an instrumentalist to still make great, memorable, catchy, high craft music. There was more than one way to signal high craft beyond just technical virtuosity, and I think that's the problem, when the lack of technical virtuosity becomes the whole hook. And that's why I think is with punk too, I'm divided on it. Like, I think when punk is about, it's very DIY, it's very crude, but it still led to an amazing song that stays in your head, that took a lot of talent to come up with, that had a killer melody, that is just at its roots a great song. So it still puts the pressure on people who are emulating it. At the end of the day, like, it's not enough to just be a bad singer or a bad player. You have to be able to create a great song in spite of that, which in some ways is harder. Then that's fine. But when people think, oh, the point of this is just that I can be cruder, I can be less talented, and that's the whole takeaway, but you sound like your music is worse as a result. That's why I think it's kind of the problem for me. Yeah, I think it's fair. Yeah, I think caring is uncool. I will say there are two, I think, big problems that I think have proliferated. There's what I call anti-effort and anti-craft. And I think anti-craft is the bigger problem, but a lot of it starts from anti-effort. So like anti-effort, like Jay-Z, I think, made a mistake of popularizing anti-effort when Jay-Z, started the legend that he doesn't write down his lyrics, that he just makes them up in his head, and that he's some kind of savant. So the idea is that he doesn't actually write anything down. He's just this kind of savant that just thinks for a second and he creates a whole incredible verse in his head. But Jay-Z is still high craft, like his stuff is still of really high craft. And I think that's what makes anti-effort more impressive, when you still can show some level of talent or vision. Like so for example, like David Byrne was part of that punk movie, and so was Debbie Harry, but their songs were very, very catchy. Like, there was a craft there, even if there seemed to not be that much effort in the virtuosity or whatever. But I think anti-craft is when you're not putting in, like, Lil Wayne, I think, wanted to do the same anti-effort thing that Jay-Z was doing. He wanted to prove that he didn't have to write down stuff. But when he did it, it sounded like he didn't write it down. Like, the craft was very bad. Like the craft sounded like he wasn't putting a lot of effort in. He was just smoking weed and coming in and just doing whatever, And I think that's kind of the problem. Like, when things move to anti-craft, like, it's like, I'm not going to give a fuck, and I don't care if it sounds like I don't give a fuck. And I think that's when things kind of really went down the tubes. But then the next problem was people, now that they're getting older and they're getting forgotten, they're getting legacy anxiety. And now people are not coming back and saying, hey, we want our Hall of Fame props. We want to be given a legacy. We deserve it because we want it, and it's like, you have old heads who still fanboy out and nitpick and pick samples, like Greg Nice and LL Cool J. You know what I mean? Like, these people still care and still have that fan in them, and you disparage hip hop and you disparage even your own work. and you want to be held in the same esteem as people like that, it's not going to work. Like, you know, it's just, you can't have it both ways. That's the part that I, you know, don't get. Yeah. I didn't listen to enough Little B to really comment on Little B, so I don't want to speak on things I don't know about. But yeah, anyway, that's it. I hope everybody enjoyed it. You know, I almost said, even though I criticized, I almost said I hope I didn't sound too much like an old head. See, it's like it's built into the fabric of everything now. Like, I almost did it, even though I just complained about everyone else doing it. I don't know why it's so built in, but yeah. Anyway, next week I want to talk about random topics, the Iran war, and where that's heading, because I think it's a really interesting thing to talk about, of all things. So yeah. Anyway, talk to y'all soon. Be good.